Anjuli Paschall, so good to have you here on See Here Love, coming in from Southern California.
That's right, Melinda. Thank you so much for having me. It's so wonderful to be here.
Yeah, thank you for spending some time with me today. I have to say this. I've introduced you, but COVID-19 plus 5 children. How are you doing?
Well, I'll say every time I walk past my bedroom, I feel like crawling in bed and taking a nap. It is tough. My kids, the oldest is 13, the youngest is 2. And so there's a lot of different needs. And we're making it, but it definitely was an adjustment, physically, emotionally, spiritually, on every level.
Wow.
It was change. And so we've acclimated to this rhythm of lockdown. Mm-hmm. And I feel like the new transition is, how do we acclimate as things start to open up? So It's a challenge. I'll just say that.
And like every other mom on the planet is like, yes, I think you just have to acknowledge it and be like, it's hard and the emotions are every day. You can be angry, grieving, sad, happy, depressed. It's just like, it's
all
tough.
of it.
It's hard, really hard.
It's so hard. And I think one word that helps me get through it is, it's not hard because I'm failing. It's hard because I'm doing something I've never done before.
Yes.
And that gives me like permission to like have some grace and be like, oh yeah, because I've never done this.
That's really good. I think that is a good reminder to have a little bit of more kindness towards yourself, because you've never experienced this before, right? Like If we did it, we'd be like, oh yeah, we've done this. Here are the steps to do it, because last time this is what we did or we didn't do, and now here's the manual. But like, there's no manual in a pandemic.
No, not at all.
I think there's some different rules about it, right?
Right, exactly.
What do you think you're learning about yourself through this?
Oh my goodness. I kind of feel like every week I've learned something new about myself, but what I'm processing right now, as here in San Diego, things are starting to open up. And so it's what do I not want to go back to?
Oh.
What do I not want to go back? What was I doing before that was kind of killing my soul, but I didn't know it because I was like, that's what everyone does. You just go. And I think there's a part of me that's like, I don't want to go back to that. And how do I make steps to not do that?
Ooh. That's really good, because then it's almost like this moment where you would need to sit down and kind of go, what are the things I don't want to go back to? Like a chaotic life, frenzied, unhealthy. Oh, wait a second. I've had pause and reflection, and now I need to kind of make steps to say, don't want to do that.
Right. And I think it hinges on this idea of like, wow, I'm free. Like, no one is telling me I have to do every single sport. Nobody.
Exactly.
It's like, I think that's a question I've been thinking of. Like, what does a free person do? They do what they want. And there's no one saying that I have to be or do all those things.
So good. I was saying that. I was like, how can I have more time? I mean, obviously we have the same amount of time in a day that we did pre-pandemic, during, and post. But I realized that in the evenings, it was events, going out, fundraisers every night. And I was going out to them. I mean, as an extrovert, I was like, oh, I got to go. A little bit of FOMO, go out 3-4 times, even a week sometimes. Now I don't. I'm like, all of these evenings, or how I kind of do my day, where sometimes I could work late and then have a break in the day. I have time to do all these things. And it's really strange, but really been liberating, is what you're saying, Anjuli.
Right. I think with the busyness of life, sometimes we've lost sight of what really brings us joy.
Yeah. Wow. That's so good. One of the things that I love that you do, you're the founder of the Moms We Love Club. You need to just talk about that, because how did that happen? And it's really a beautiful club, if you will.
Thank you. The Moms We Love Club is really birthed from like the deepest part of my soul. It's a social media campaign where we care for women and moms, especially, who are enduring long-term hardship. And that can mean they have a child who's sick, a husband who's passed away, or she herself is enduring chronic suffering. And so what we do as a feed, we're on Instagram and social media, one day a month, we feature a mom and we invite everyone who's a part of that feed, a part of that community, to repost her picture. And the goal is to bring her awareness, prayer, and financial support. And these are moms who are in it, this kind of suffering, probably the rest of their lives. So it's not a short-term thing. It's, hey, they've already been in it for 10 years.
Wow.
And they probably will be for the rest of their lives. And these are the moms that kind of get forgotten. You know, once a trauma or tragedy hits, I find that there's a great amount of rallying and support. But then over time, people kind of, their lives go on, you know, and that mom, what she's facing, is not getting any better. It's just consistent suffering. And so we use this platform to really support her and love her and remind her that she's seen and loved.
That's like us. I mean, that's why I say there's so much alignment in the things. I'm like seen, heard, and loved, right? Because when I was launching this show, I was talking to women across Canada. I speak at different women's conferences, and it kept resonating. People were like, I don't feel seen. I feel invisible. I'm not heard. It's like my voice doesn't matter. My story doesn't matter. My experience doesn't seem to matter. So I don't have a platform. And I feel desperately alone and not loved and not valued. And so it kind of, this, Anjuli, kind of was birthed out of that, hearing from women saying, I'm desperately looking to be reminded I'm seen, heard, and loved. And I think what you're doing is exactly that. Like I went on the Instagram and saw that on your website and read the stories, and it was like, wow. So it's so practical. It's so beautiful.
So easy, right? It's just, all you have to do is repost a picture.
Yeah, that's it. So beautiful. Well done. So good.
Thank you. Thank you.
One of the things too, so you're the founder of the Moms We Love Club. You're a writer for Dayspring. You're a wife. You're a mom. And then you write this book that is just, first of all, the cover is stunning. But it's really interesting because it kind of, something resonated with me that I was like, oh, because it's called Stay. And it's this whole idea that it's, for many of us, it's easier to run away from our problems, issues, anxieties, and things. But you're saying you need to stay with those heartaches because it's greater intimacy with Jesus. But I need to say this, Anjuli. When I see the word stay, I have this weird physical reaction. Like, oh, because I didn't like that word. It meant, you know, sort of, that's hard, it's commitment, it's confining, it's control, it's not, sounds like freedom, it sounds like restrictive. I'm just saying, when funny, right? The word, so maybe you can kind of redeem the word for me. And I have been going there, but it's been fascinating when I was sort of reading through it. I'm like, oh, so talk to me about that, because I think it seems so counterintuitive to stay in the hardships versus we immediately want to run away from hardships, right?
Yep, I'm a big time runner. So not physically running, just to clarify. No, right, exactly. But emotionally I run and avoid and hide. And what I think might help redeem that word, if it's hard for you or other people, imagine a person in your life who has stayed with you when you thought they probably should have run away. Mm-hmm. So someone who said, Melinda, I see you. I hear you. And they just pulled out that chair at that table and said, sit down. Can you think of someone right now? Mm. Yeah. And I feel like we're lucky enough to imagine that person or have that person in our life. And I think that is the greatest gift, isn't it? When you've had that person who said, hey, you and your heart, just sit down. You don't have to prove yourself. You don't have to explain it. You don't have to be perfect. Like, just you, as you are, just sit down. And I think that's this idea that I want to cultivate through this book is, hey, not only does God do that for us, he pulls out a seat at the table of our soul and says, hey, sit down. I just want to be with you. But then we are actually able to do that for other people. Mm-hmm. We get to be people who invite other people to stay. And it's through that staying, right? When you've had anxiety or fear or shame or guilt, most of the time we are ejecting because we don't like the feeling. But the feeling actually is the invitation. The feeling is what takes us to the deeper belief that's there. But we usually don't even get to the real issue because we're so quick to exit. And so I want to invite women like, hey, actually anxiety can be a gift. Your guilt, it actually can be a gift. And those feelings become the place where God meets us. Anjuli or Melinda, like, what are you anxious about? What are you guilty of? I know you're lonely. And so this place of staying becomes such a deep, deep well of being with Jesus.
Mm-hmm. What are the things when we say stay? What does that mean practically when you're like, stay and not run away? So let's sort of like unpack that a bit. So when we run away, what do we do when we run away from our anxiety, our guilt, our fear, all of those things?
Sure. And I think, I might even ask you that. So what we're not always aware of are our strategies, right? So when you encounter, if you think of something right now that you're avoiding or running away from, and it can be small things. It can be literally, I don't want to return that person's text message. You get that ding on your phone and it's like, oh, like that just like bugged me. And so your strategy is, I'm not going to return it. I'm going to ignore it. And so that's the moment where I would ask you, like, and anyone listening or watching, like, what do you do to run away? So that's one for me. If I get a text message that kind of bugs me, it's like, oh, I'm going to just avoid it, ignore it, do the dishes, get lunch going, and I'll deal with it later tonight. Mm-hmm. And what I want to say is like, okay, this resistance to doing something that you don't want to do, I want you to start paying attention to it, because resistance is a gift. It tells you, it's that light, that warning light on the dashboard of your soul that says, you're running away. What don't you want to see? What don't you want to deal with? And then it turns into, like, in a very practical sense, like what you're asking, Melinda, is, God, that text message really bothered me. And it triggered something in me that I didn't even know was there. Or this person in particular, I'm still actually mad at them for something they did 5 years ago. And I'm just holding on to that resentment for dear life. And so there's smaller things like a text message. There's bigger things like trauma, where we're not going to look at it. We're so focused to not look at it. And yet the triggers are always there. So maybe, Melinda, can you think of some ways where you have strategies for avoiding or running away?
Are you saying how do I run away, or how am I not?
Yeah. What would you do to not deal with some of your emotions? How would you deal with them instead of staying?
That's good. I would definitely think about the text message or kinds of emails or people that reach out they just don't want to deal with. And part of that maybe is I don't like confrontation. There's that little bit of people pleasing in. So if I respond in the way I really want to, it would hurt that person, or it would challenge that person. That's actually good. Or I go out for a coffee, go for a drive and physically get away from it. So that's the strategies in which we kind of run away from things or not deal with it. Like, I've looked at journals I've had since I was 13 and still dealing with some cyclical things based on I don't like conflict. So you don't go there. It's good. Yeah.
Well, it's that, I think even that, right? So then what it takes us to is, like, when you can move through that feeling of like, oh, I don't want to hurt that person. It takes you really to that deep belief of, I feel responsible for that person's emotions. Or whatever that is, whatever that deep belief is for you or for whoever's listening or watching, it's, what is that deep belief? And that is what God is after. Mm-hmm. God is after that thing that we hold on to, that we think we have power over or security in. And so it's, oh God, there I go again. I feel like I have to protect this person. But God, you are the protector. God, you are the one who carries them. And so that, right, that becomes this moment of intersection of your real heart, your real pain, your real desires with the heart of God. And there's that intersection of true intimacy. In the same way it would be with a friend who meets you right where you are.
Yeah, that's good. Obviously, when you sort of put pen to paper and you share this, Anjuli, there must be some personal backstory to what kind of like forms out of a book. So what's sort of your story that led you to say, I need to write this?
Yeah.
Maybe not just for others, but in the journey and messiness of my life. Because I mean, I love how honest you are even in your bio, where you're frequently late, wrestles with guilt, and loses things. Like you seem to be a woman that's really sort of open and honest about the mess of things. So my assumption is that this book was sort of written out of that sort of messy, honest place.
Totally. So probably when I was in my mid-20s, I was working at a church, I was in seminary, I was, leading all kinds of missions trips, doing all the things,
Yeah.
And yet I realized I was like totally miserable. I was an absolute mess. And I had the opportunity, and I was a runner. So extrovert runner, people fill my calendar kind of person. And I had the opportunity to go on a 3-week isolated retreat. And what I did was I went to this island off the coast of Washington all by myself. And it was really this moment of absolute staying. Like I just, for 21 days was alone, and I had to face every demon in my closet, And from that experience, which radically changed me, was I don't want to run. Like I want to be where Jesus is, and Jesus is with me where I really am, in my mess, imperfection, failing, shortcomings, idle, breaking self. And so I think that really propelled me to write and encourage other women to stay.
Wow. I love that. I love this, but also within the book, it's sort of taking what we know about God. So like, how we're running away, but we need to stay in this intimacy with Jesus. But a lot of times we know it, it's like head, but it's not really heart knowledge, right? And I think growing up for me, in a bit of a legalistic sort of church experience, and everything was really about more head knowledge, like know it. But it took me to my 20s where I kind of got the heart of it. Like it really started resonating. And that's what really changed my life. That's where the trajectory like changed. Like I would say I was a Christian all my life, but it was, I knew it. And I was doing all the motions and, doing all the right things, and then didn't for many years, but then got it in my 20s. There are a lot of people that struggle with that, Anjuli, I know it in my head, but I don't know it in my heart. I don't really know it, and it's not transforming me to live out this life of following Jesus. What would you say to those people that are really struggling with that?
I would say for women who want to know the love of God in their hearts, they have to have the courage to go into their hearts. I would say it's a scary thing to unpack what's really going on in your heart. That is not just a light switch on and off kind of thing. It's a journey. It's a journey in there. What motivates you? What drives you? Why do you do what you do? How did your church impact you? How did your parents impact you? How did your siblings impact you? And uncovering and knowing your story is the way into experiencing God in your heart. And if you don't want to go into your heart, you'll never know the love of God in your heart. That's just not possible. And so it has to be a double knowledge, knowing in your heart and God knowing you in your heart. Those work together.
So as far as though that, I mean, because the struggle is people are like, but I try it. I'm praying that I'll get it and it will transform. And I guess it's not really, there's not like 5 ways to do it. So I guess it's just like, we're praying, we're asking people to kind of be with us. I think it's just really, what's practical? Because I know a lot of my girlfriends and guy friends that really struggle with it. And they're just like, what are the steps, Mel, to make it a really real relationship with Jesus? Because I'm not feeling him. The relationship isn't seem life giving. It's not, what would you say?
Oh my goodness. I just love this question so much. I love it because like you said, it's not a formula, right? It's not like 5 steps, because you're a human, you're a person. It's the same way in a marriage. You can't be like, if you do these 5 steps, then your marriage is going to be amazing. It's a relationship. And so to a friend that you're describing, I would say, stay. I would say stay and open your heart, even in the stone cold silence of prayer. Open it. Because the transition, I think what God does in those places is we so think we are in control of our spiritual lives. We think we're in the driver's seat. We think if we do these things, then God will do this. And what the radical change is actually you are not in control of your spiritual journey. God is in control. And he is doing something in that silence to change your heart, to change your understanding of who God is, to change your character. And so I would say, the silence, the absence of his feeling his presence, God is in the undercurrent of that. And you have to stay with that, because then becomes, okay, what happens in your soul when God doesn't, show up?
Right.
What is happening there? Is it, oh God, is it angry? God, I did all these things and you didn't show up? Like, what is God doing when he doesn't reveal his presence in a tangible way to you? Because he's doing something in your soul.
Yeah. One of the things in your book, and it's interesting, is sort of the danger of comfort, right? And which is part of the stay. I want to talk about that because there's something about the comfort of, we use comfort because we want to be, comfortable, especially now with COVID, it's the comfort of home and all that. But what you're saying is that we have to be careful about being too comfortable, which is part of like not dealing with all the issues that we have because we're comfortable in it. It's like, oh, we don't need to deal with that. We don't need to work on some of the character things that God is sort of poking at us. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Like,
totally. Yeah, I do. I would say probably 2 things. It will work for a while. Avoiding your real heart will work for a time, but because God loves us, he is resilient and constantly pursuing your heart. So those places where he knows you are stuck, he's going to go after those places. And it's just a matter of time before the comfort wears off. Mm-hmm. Or you'll just have to drink more, or you'll just have to shop more. You'll have to fill up your calendar more to get the same results as it once gave you. The other thing I would say is, well, one, I love comfort, so I get it, is that if you want to experience love, it will always be through vulnerability. So it always requires you cracking open your heart and having the courage to go in there if what you want to experience is love. Now, if you're not, to the degree you'll go down into your heart is to the degree you'll experience love. So if you're only going to go that far down, you're only going to be able to experience love to that degree, if that makes sense. So I would say, and not only receive it, but also give it. And I think this is one thing I try and encourage women to do is, okay, maybe don't deal with your heart or your pain for you, but do it for your children and do it for your friendships and your spouse. Because if you're not able to go into your heart, if you're not able to stay in your heart, you are not able to stay with other people in their hearts. So deal with your stuff so that your kids have the freedom to have a deeper love and relationship with you.
That's good. And Julie, sort of your takeaway from all of this, intimacy with Jesus, what's sort of your takeaway for those that are like, I'm resonating with you, I'm hearing what you're saying? What would you say to them?
I would say there's an aspect to this spiritual discipline, I would call it, of staying, that doesn't require going to a cabin for 3 weeks or 21 days or intensive therapy. It might, for some, require therapy, but it's also something that's just as easy as brushing your teeth or tying your shoes or washing your hands. It's this, God, you're here. You're here with me when I wash the dishes, and you know the complexities of my heart, and you know how angry I am. God, I just want to be open to you. I want to stay with you. And so there's an easiness to the staying, and there's also, it also will require a level of work, but both is true in the Christian life. It's easy and hard.
Yeah, for sure. Well, thank you, Anjuli, because I love Easter Redeemed Stay.
Oh, good, Melinda. I'm glad I could do that.
And I go, but I think the stay part is really beautiful and so much for us to learn from. So thank you so much for your time with us.
Oh, thanks for having me. What a gift to be here.
Thanks.